Welcome to AP Television, your go-to channel for mastering AP Macroeconomics. In today's video, we're diving into Unit 3.6, Changes in the Aggregate Demand and Aggregate Supply (ADAS) model in the short run. This is an essential topic for understanding how real-world shocks can impact output, prices, and employment. Let's get started. The ADAS model is one of the foundational tools in macroeconomics. It helps us understand how the economy responds to changes in aggregate demand, aggregate supply, and the overall price level. But before we dive deeper, let's clarify some basics. Now, in this video, we'll focus on how changes in aggregate demand, AD, and short-run aggregate supply, SRAS, impact the economy in the short run. You'll see how these shifts create inflationary or recessionary gaps, and how policy responses aim to stabilize the economy. In the short run, wages and some input prices are sticky, meaning they don't adjust right away to changes in the economy. This stickiness causes the SRAS curve to slope upward. As prices rise, firms are willing to produce more, but wages haven't caught up yet. This leads to changes in both output and employment. Equilibrium in the short run happens when aggregate demand intersects with short-run aggregate supply. The intersection determines the price level and real GDP. Sometimes, this equilibrium occurs below or above full employment, leading to what we call recessionary or inflationary gaps. Aggregate demand can shift due to changes in consumer spending, investment, government policies, or net exports. In the short run, a rightward shift increases both output and prices. This is known as demand pull inflation. On the flip side, a leftward shift reduces output and prices, leading to deflation or slower economic growth. The SRAS curve shifts due to changes in factors like production costs, wages, or external shocks. Think natural disasters or oil price hikes. A leftward shift in SRAS leads to cost-push inflation, a rise in prices and a drop in output. A rightward shift, on the other hand, boosts output and lowers prices. A prime example of a negative supply shock is the 1970s oil crisis. OPEC's oil embargo drastically increased production costs worldwide, pushing the SRAS curve to the left. The result? A rare combination of high inflation and low growth, a phenomenon known as stagflation. With rising costs for businesses and households, inflation surged while economic output fell, leaving policymakers in a tough spot. Traditional tools to fight inflation, like raising interest rates, only worsened unemployment, making recovery slow and painful. So how do governments and central banks respond to these changes? During recessionary gaps, they might use expansionary policies to shift AD to the right. This includes increasing government spending or lowering interest rates. In contrast, during inflationary gaps, they might use contractionary policies to reduce demand and cool down the economy. Finally, there's a short-run trade-off between inflation and unemployment, which we can see in the short-run Phillips curve. When AD increases, inflation rises, but unemployment falls. Conversely, when AD decreases, inflation slows, but unemployment rises. This relationship highlights the challenge policymakers face when trying to balance these two issues. To sum up, changes in aggregate demand and short-run aggregate supply have profound effects on the economy. Whether it's inflationary or recessionary gaps, these shifts influence output, prices, and employment. Real-life events, like the 1970s oil crisis or the 2008 financial crisis, show how sensitive the economy can be to shocks in supply and demand. Remember, understanding how the ADAS model operates is key to mastering macroeconomics and preparing for your AP exam. We'll dive into more concepts in the next video, so stay tuned.